Hey, folks, welcome to the Accessible Hunter podcast. I'm Greg Trainer along with my co host, Mike Hudson. And today we're going to be talking with a gentleman from Indiana, Brad Shaffer. And Brad and I have been friends on Facebook for a long time, and I've been following some of his hunting adventures. But first, Mike, what's going on in South Carolina, brother?
Oh man, we're just living the dream, my man. Right now it's going to be 70 degrees today, and then next week
Ooh.
they're talking a high of 44, low of 26. And Mother Nature, we joke around and say it, but bipolarism is kicking in hard right now. And so, I'm trying to get out and have a good time before it gets bone chilly.
Yeah.
Man, it's cold here in PA. It was in the 30s this morning, and I think the high is 50, but the sun's shining, and the November rut is starting. I've got some bucks chasing some does, and had an opportunity to get out and hunt a little bit over Halloween and
There
run
you
my
go.
run my Mr. Buddy heater. It kept it about 75 or 80 degrees in my ground blind, so I didn't freeze my butt off, and my wife was happy. But Brad, what's going on in Indiana today, man?
The sun's shining. It's not too bad. I just went out and got the mail about an hour ago, and it's actually pretty warm. I mean, I don't know the exact temperature at this second, but it's nice out today in Indiana. I don't think we're going to have nice forever. Probably we got a couple of weeks till our opening deer season, and actually a week. This weekend is the last weekend before the opener, so I'm hoping the temperature drops a little bit, but we'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
there
It's
you go.
Yeah,
it's a fun time of year for hunters, man.
yeah.
October, November, we're getting after it. And Brad, for the people that haven't followed you on Facebook or seen some of your adventures, you want to introduce yourself a little bit, tell us where you're from, and maybe a little bit about your story before we get into hunting.
Oh, yeah. Of course, my name's Brad Shaffer, and I live in a small town in Indiana in Shelby County, which is Waldron, Waldrons. And I think that the water customers are about 277. So that's how many people get off the municipal supply of water here. The address is a pretty big address with a lot of farmland. It's just flat everywhere. Um, I'm 59 years old. I've been hunting since I was about 8, and I think I got my first shotgun, my first actual real gun at 9. My grandfather got it for me, and it's just been kind of I don't know, very fortunate. Had a lot of friends that hunted, took me out a lot of places. Started out with squirrels, and I've been to Africa and shot a couple cow elk, and I just shot a year ago with Dew, Utah, out in near Salt Lake City. We went to the Wasatch Mountain Range, and I got to shoot a big bull elk, and I sent some pictures to Greg on that, and it was nice. It was a very physically tiring hunt for me. You're up at 4:30 in the morning and drive all day and side by side, and you get a little lunch break, take a snooze, but then you're out again. And my wife and I were just leaving for church, I think Sunday, and she uh, picked the wheelchair up that I used out there, and there was still Utah dirt in it because they got their own collar. And I just got back from Greg's territory week before last. Went out to the I think it's pronounced Andre or Andre Preserve, Andrey. It's near Glen Campbell in Pennsylvania, and just about 30 minutes south of Puxatawny, which we're all familiar with the badger right there. That's what I call him. And
Right.
anyway, yeah, uh, they put on a good show. Tom Siple Foundation.
Yeah.
I got a hold of them through Facebook, and they did have whitetail there. They wanted to be taken, and they invited me in, and I just had to get there. And I had a good friend, Howard Bowen, drive with me out to Pennsylvania, and it's only about 6 hours and 45 minutes or so, not including stops, drive time. And they were.
Right.
It's a beautiful lodge. He's got a great property that's well taken care of, and it was a good time. And I ended up successfully getting a nice 9 point whitetail deer and got it home. My wife helped me grind it up. That's my latest adventure. So, um,
It's hard to go wrong when you're getting out to PA. Tom Simple and that group out there, man, they do a fantastic job. Greg and
it,
I both were able to do it over the years, and they've kind of transitioned locations, moved around some lodging since me and Greg. We're old guys, so they
I'm
had us on a
old.
different spot. They had us on a different spot years ago, but man, they're a top notch crew.
They really are.
Yes, sir.
And, yeah. And
But it
there,
sounds like you get up and down the road pretty good.
yeah,
That paraplegia doesn't slow you down too much.
well, it had. I mean, compared to what I was, my good friend Sean Lucas took me to Africa in 2012, and I was walking with a cane and using a wheelchair for long distance, and now I'm in a wheelchair full time. I can
Yeah.
transfer pretty good, so I'm fortunate in that way, and I've just been lucky over the years to have the people I have, and like I was starting to say, the guy that took me to Africa in 2012, Sean Lucas, he had um, commented just not too long ago, the backside of his home property in Indiana. He can remember me taking rabbits out there, walking through briars and getting cut up. And he goes, and now, just 20 years later, here I am, and
right.
no more rabbit hunting like that anyway.
Right.
I can through with a track chair or something, but,
Brad,
as we
Brad,
age, that's what happens.
Brad, I've never been out of the country hunting. I've been out of the country before, going over to Europe, but I've never experienced Africa. Mike, I don't know if you've been to Africa for hunting or for work or with your military experience, but Brad, what was that like getting over to Africa, and what was uh, what was
Well,
accessibility like? I know you were still walking
yeah.
a little bit then, but what was that trip like for you?
Well, just if you've flown, you know what it's like to fly. It's a longer flight. I think we were in the air about 14 and a half hours from Atlanta to Johannesburg. And once you land, they put you at the front of the line with the wheelchair. And so my buddy was thrilled with that. And he's been back about 7 or 8 times since then. I've only been the one time. Accessibility wise, they can get in your chair, but you almost. I was talking to a guy. I don't know if you guys have. I'm sure you've heard of Corey from Curb Free with Corey Lee. He travels
Oh
the
yeah.
Yes.
world, and they're talking that you can now get set close to the restrooms, and they somehow they can help you get to the bathroom. And I don't know that for a fact, but that's Delta. I think that he was flying with
Yeah.
going to Africa. So, accessibility wise, you just let them know ahead of time. Africa is probably um, it's ahead of its time for being Africa, and South Africa has accessibility is decent. I had two steps that were just about 4 inches. One was to get into the dining hall. I could do that by myself, and then my own hut over there I had, which was two steps really to get into that, and they were about the same size. I had a little bit of help, but I didn't need as much help as I would now. I would not hesitate to go now that I know about the bathroom situation with Delta. They and I don't know. Africa is just. I had a guy. He didn't realize. I didn't think he could speak English, and he came over and picked me up out of my wheelchair and put me in the truck. And they want you to shoot out of the truck, and they would,
Right.
that was their goal for me was to drive around and just shoot right out the when they lay the windshield down flat and you put a sandbag down almost, and when you shoot your animals, and it's a great trip. I don't think anybody should ever hesitate to go if you get a chance
Yeah.
to Africa. Doesn't matter if
What
you're a walker or not. They can take
what
care of you.
what animals did you end up taking in Africa, Brad?
I took a warthog. I took an impala. I took a zebra, and I took a blue wildebeest.
Wow.
Man, you can't go wrong with that. Greg,
No,
to answer your question, my
yeah.
in-laws, they spend about 200 days a year in Africa, and
Oh,
they
nice.
go to Kenya, Tanzania, go through Dar es Salaam, so it's a little bit more on the East Coast side of it,
Hmm.
and they've got a lot of safari land over that area. But a lot of places over on that side of Africa, even the people from Tanzania, they can't draw hunting permits. And
Yeah,
so it's getting a little sketchy depending on where you're at. But
right,
where Brad was at, man, they've got a ton of animals, and so a lot of people don't understand Africa, the continent itself, is broke up a lot like the United States. Each and every entity is its own country per se.
right.
And so, just travel, you got to have passes, permits, and visas and whatnot to get from one section to the next. But man, it sounds like you really put it on over there, Brad. And
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that they work so hard to get you right up in the vehicle so you can be one a part of it.
Yeah, it's really great. It's very accommodating. I loved it. I no complaints about that at all. I don't know. I did want to kill a baboon, but it was a holiday,
Yeah.
and you have to get a special permit I didn't know about until we were there, and we couldn't get it, and that was really the last
Sure.
day that we were there. So
Gr Growing up, Brad, as a person with a disability, you were, born with it. Um, what kind of mentorships or who encouraged you to get out? Do you think that um, people treated you different because of your disability hunting when you started at such a young age at 8? And tell us a little bit about the mentors and people that got you outdoors.
well, a lot of people don't realize what it takes to get me out, even at the age of 8. And younger people that I hunted with, a few were just, I could tell were frustrated. They would never do anything to insult me or upset me, but they were just like, I had a friend's brother took me to a deer spot, and he had a climber. He said, "Can you use that?" And I said, "I'll try." And my legs were strong enough
Yeah.
I could pull them up, but I could pull the stand up as a climber. But I could, once I was up there, I was stuck, and so it was that kind of
Yeah.
run for that day. So he just didn't understand. I had my one grandpa took me out shooting a lot, and my other grandpa didn't. Just because he was I think it was just the fear of me getting hurt or falling or something. And as I aged a little bit, then more and more people wanted to mentor me as friends more than relatives. Although I did have some good, my mom took me out for one of my first squirrel hunts because she just didn't want me to fall
Yeah.
with a rifle and all that. And it was fine, and I had a good time with it. That's my first shotgun was a 12 gauge. First gun I shot, was a 12 gauge. My single shot. My grandfather said it won't kick too bad, and he stood
Yeah.
behind me, caught me on my way down. Obviously, you knew that was going to happen with
Right.
a little guy like that. But he encouraged me a lot by buying me, my first weapon, and here we are, 50 years later, and I'm still doing the same stuff. And it's just been, like I say, started with squirrels and rabbits, and it's ended up with elk and a mule deer with Wyoming disabled hunters, which you guys know about. That's a great
Yeah.
group of guys out there that bring you out. You just got to get there and you got to pay for your tag is all, and they take care of the rest. And I'm telling you, it's a lot of work for them. And just like the Do Utah crowd and the Disabled Outdoors, they do a lot of work and to make it happen for people like us, that wouldn't be able to do it on our own, really. It's just tough to do.
The crazy thing is something like you just said, Brad, is, we got a lot of people that really want to help. They just don't know how to help or, what
Right.
they can get into. And then we got so many entities now that are just out there. You brought up a lot of great names and a lot of great organizations that are out there getting after it. If you had an opportunity to do a dream hunt, what animal would it be?
Well, always, the elk I shot was big. It was a
Yeah.
spike, but there was other elk in the area. It was big. I'd like that, or I would like to. I'd love to go back to Africa again. I'm working on that a little bit right now, but we'll see how that goes down the road.
Yeah.
This past summer, my wife and I drove out to Ennis, Montana, and fly fish for the first time ever. But we did it with in a drift boat, and that's with Abilities Montana at Camp Bullwill. If you want to look
That's awesome.
yeah, that you guys know him. You guys probably know more of these people than I do. Great guy. David Poole runs it, and I stay in touch with him. They called him Wild Man back in the day, and I think that's, it was appropriate. Just a lot of fun out there, and it was a dream trip just to drive out to Montana like that and spend the time. We ended up driving through the Badlands on the way home, and we're trying to go back out. Not this coming spring. We're going to wait a year and go the next spring to go back out, and I think we'll fly that way
What
and have a little more time to fish instead of drive.
When you're going on these bigger game hunts, Brad, what are you shooting? Is it rifle, crossbow? What do you prefer for these bigger hunts?
Rifle. I've got a lot of what I like to shoot is I have a 308 and bolt
Mm.
gun, and I like that. I went to Africa. I was very, very fortunate and worked at Gander Mountain for a lot of years selling guns. And so we could look, obviously we had a database of what guns we had in the company. And I ended up finding a nice Remington 700 Safari grade 375 H&H. And I took that to Africa with me. Which the reason I did that is because, I knew that they would have that ammunition over there or something, or they could
Yeah.
work on it.
Right.
You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yes, sir.
And I had a gentleman there that I worked with, the gander. He said, "Listen, I just want a picture of you with the zebra. If you know, I'm gonna load you up some 375 that won't knock you out when you shoot it." And he did. He's
Wow.
a great guy.
The reason I ask is because when I went to the Tom Siple Foundation, whenever I was hunting with them, I used their rifle and their setup from Be Adaptive Equipment. They had a 7mm setup in a mount that wasn't even on my wheelchair, so I didn't have any recoil from it whatsoever. And they had it on an iPad, and I was able to move the joystick that would you know
Oh, yeah.
put the mount on. I didn't know if you used their rifle with the Tom Siple Foundation or Mike. When you went with them, how did you do it?
Well,
Yeah,
I just
you know what? I brought my rifle, and they did the exact same thing, Greg. They had it set up already, dialed in. We used the joystick, and then they had a push button, which was
Yes.
weird. It was weird for me, because I'm so used to shoulder mounting my rifle, being ready to get on it, and so I brought mine in anticipation that I was going to use my gun, and they were like, "Hey, won't you try it?" And I was like, "Hey, I'm all about trying something different, so let's get after it." And it was pretty cool because it was completely different. So
Yes.
I'm driving this thing on a joystick, and I'm watching the
yeah,
turret turn. And as soon as we got on the deer, like you said, I want to say it was a 7 millimeter, but
Yep.
hit the little button and off it went. So that was different.
That was a first for me too. I had brought my rifle up, and you and I, we spend a lot of time at the range, and we're all sighted in. But
Yeah.
when I seen their setup, and of course this was years ago, I was like, "Dang man, that's dialed in. I want to use it. Heck yeah, I'll use your equipment." And I didn't know if you needed adaptive equipment like that, Brad, or you were able to hold and shoulder your rifle, or
yeah. I'm able to hold and shoot it, but I just I don't know why we were talking with one of the guys from the foundation, and he said we got rifles if you don't want to try. He said just if you want, and so I said I'll just use yours if you don't care. Well, and I didn't use it, any kind of a joystick or anything. I just mounted it with on my shoulder and pulled the trigger. Nice
nice.
43 that the Cooper Arms, I think is what it was, that the owner or the manager there, Jeremy at Andre Preserve, he had it. And I never felt a better trigger. I've not done a lot of trigger jobs on anything, and it was just like when I breathed, and I remember, exhale and then just squeeze until it scares you, and it did, and it was a great
Right.
shot. Uh, and the equipment they had, like you guys were talking about, I think there was 3 cameras at the same time running at different angles on me. And I didn't even realize it until after the shot. And they were
Right.
filming. It was
Yeah.
it was fun, and they don't mess around. You know what I mean? They get it done, and
Right.
they like to have a lot of footage, and I think it helps them raise money. And hopefully I go back out to the
That's
banquet.
the Absolutely, and that was the biggest thing is just being there.
Oh
I love a good harvest, man. Don't get me wrong, but just spending time in camp, seeing how people do things different.
yeah,
They did everything to accommodate us, and they were going out of their way to make sure everything was good. And they had me in like a rolling camp. It, Man, it was almost like a wagon. And so they wanted to
Hmm.
keep the heat going because it got really cold.
yeah,
And so they were able to do drives because the wind got really crazy. And so they were driving animals out into the field doing man drives.
sure.
And man, it was really a great opportunity.
They are they're good. They took it. I just drove around his property all day looking at deer. Um, it was just it is fun. It's a little different. Pennsylvania's a little more hilly than
Yeah.
Indiana
Yeah.
is. Indiana's pretty flat unless you get down south pretty far, and you got a few hills. But Pennsylvania's a lot more hilly than we are there. But he had a great property, took care of it well, and
Brad, Brad, when you first started, hunting other states and things, I mean, you've obviously have tons of experience traveling with firearms and going on different hunts. Is there like an aha moment, like this is what the outdoors is about. This is what I want everybody to enjoy. You know, Sometimes harvesting a doe can be just as
oh
great as harvesting a giant buck. And just from your vast experiences, Is there any hunts that you'd like to talk about to kind of encourage people that are thinking about going hunting to be able to get out?
Well, it's, as you guys know, it's nerve wracking to get ready and go someplace new, and you got to travel. When I went to Utah, they flew me out to Salt Lake City,
Mhm.
which I don't fly a ton. I don't like to fly, but I do.
Yeah.
It's obvious. You got to, if you're going to go to Africa, you got to fly. And
Right. Right.
and they got me into Utah, and it was just, I had to say, the guy that drove me up and down the mountain. We went up to over 9,000 feet every day, and come back down, and it's just, I was the last guy in that group that killed an elk, a bull elk, and it was the last hour I could hunt, and I didn't think
Wow.
I was going to get it done. And they actually had me in the side by side and put it in neutral, and had one of the guys drive down this hill. He says, when I start this, we're going to go to the top of the hill. There's 3 elk standing there. He said, and they're about, I forget the yardage. It wasn't like a 500-yard shot, obviously, but and he said, be ready and pull the trigger as soon as you get it lined up. They're going to move when they see us. And that's what happened exactly. And in the middle of pulling the rifle up, he said, you want the last one, and instead of, because I think he told me, if I'm right, I wanted the second one, and they had changed positions that quick, but it was successful. And my wife was with me, which was a great thing to have, your spouse with you.
Absolutely.
And they were all up above me and where they had spotted them from, and we went down into the bottom. And she said, just wasn't a dry eye, and it kind of got me emotional to do that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you one more thing that really got me. Seeing that was my first mule deer to see live, was the one, out there with them, seeing, and there's so many out there. There's a lot of mule deer. And then when you're approaching the airport in Johannesburg, it was just emotional, because you, as a kid, you read all these books, and you watch Tarzan, and you hear about Dr. Livingstone, and
Right.
uh, Hemingway, and our president Roosevelt that did a lot of safaring. And
Yes, sir.
if you hunted squirrels, you wanted to go to Africa. And it was just, I looked over, and my buddy took me. He was a little misty too, so it was just those are 3 of the big ones. I mean, that I could think about. And I think that if I ever kill a big grizzly, that would be something. But I don't know if my budget's going to allow it, or a Cape buffalo. But we'll
Yeah.
see. But that's pretty good. That's some of the best memories. I mean, right there, and it's just so many memories. I mean,
It's
go ahead.
I was going to say, man, it sounds like, doggone, you've just about hunted every state.
I don't know.
You're on the go. But you know what? You said it right, man. It's about making memories. It's about spending time in the car, being able to look at the Badlands,
Yes. Yeah.
getting out and just having awesome time in nature, despite our accidents or injuries. And that's what I love about life. I love being able to talk to people on this Accessible Hunter podcast, just to give encouragement that, hey, life's not over. Man, there's a lot of beautiful country and a lot of great opportunity. And Brad, man, thank you for sharing so much of
Hey,
that, and
yeah,
just
that's
the,
my
you know,
pleasure, really, to be on here. And if I don't know if we're getting ready to wrap up, but I do want to say the
no,
thing. If anybody that watches this and they want to go hunting for something, and they want to, someplace that I've been, they look at my Facebook page, they can call me. My Facebook has my contact phone number on there, and my email. I don't. And if you want to hunt, all you got to do is ask and look. And there's a lot of organizations that want to help and do help. And it's not just, okay, well, make sure that you can get in the bathroom at our lodge. They're out there with you, right beside you when you're hunting, and
absolutely.
they put in the hours. I mean, just all you got to do is ask, and you
Right.
got.
That's one of the things that I really want to highlight is, you know, you mentioned that it's not easy to travel. For a person with a disability, a high level spinal cord injury like Mike or me, or a paraplegic like you, it is not easy to travel. And when we're talking about a 14-hour flight, there's probably no getting Mike or somebody like me into that bathroom. No matter how good they are, traveling is hard, but it's so rewarding once you get there and you get all your equipment, you get to meet the guys, and you've been fortunate enough to, go on hunts with several different organizations. And there's so many throughout the country, little small towns that are putting together hunts for people that
That's right.
are small nonprofits that don't get the national recognition. They're just men and women that want to take people like us, people that love the outdoors, back out, hunting. And they can't do enough for us. It's just amazing. Having the ability to travel, not everyone does that, but if you seek out, you know, organizations close to home or
Oh,
small gun clubs, you can still get out, whether it's squirrel hunting or go on a pheasant hunt or take a trip to Africa. They're all so enjoyable on different levels.
right. Right. There's a gentleman here that just invited me. I think it started about 4 years ago on a dove hunt, which is, 10 minutes, 15 minutes from here, from my house. And he asked me every year. I had some issues the last couple of years about that time of the year. I don't know why. This year I felt like going, and he sent me his yearly email. You're always welcome. And I said,
Yep.
what day are you going out? And I was going to be out of town, so obviously I didn't get to go. But it's right here. And if you just got to ask, because
Yep.
I think people are more afraid of us or hurting us or hurting our feelings when it's not really the case. That they just don't want to, you know, do something and ask or say something wrong. They feel like they could insult us.
Right.
How could you
And,
possibly hunt? But you can. And there's a lot of guys that have helped me. It's a list that would take more than 40 minutes if I wrote it all out to help me.
and
Yeah.
and Brad, I just got off the phone. You said about pheasant hunts and things. I just got off the phone with Dan Burns from Nevins Hunting Friends,
Yeah.
and great little organization. They generally work with people under 18. That's what their nonprofit's all about, getting kids out hunting. But
Yeah.
he talked with me this morning, and he said they're going to be having a pheasant hunt at a private reserve in January that you don't need a hunting license or anything like that, and they're going to be opening it up to people with disabilities who are adults. And he wanted to know if I want to come up hunting, and I'm going to try to make it, but January in Pennsylvania on a pheasant hunt might be a little difficult for me. But small organizations like that, and Mike, I know you work with a lot of nonprofits down south and things that it doesn't always have to be a trip to Africa or a big buck hunt or an elk hunt. Heck, we'll go out and dove hunt with you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Dove hunting's great.
Man, it's hard to go wrong with a dove, man. You wrap that
No,
thing in bacon, boy, and it's hard to go wrong.
grill them up really quick, and yeah,
Yes, sir.
doesn't take
Yes,
much effort.
sir.
Just
That's the biggest thing about it, guys. Is just getting back out enjoying life. Life's too short to worry about the stuff we can't handle or we can't make a change. It's all about finding new ways and new adventures to get involved in. And like you said, Brad, guys and girls out here want to help.
they
It's
do.
not asking. It's not asking for a handout. It's really asking for a hand up. They just want to know, hey, what are your limitations, or how can we get involved? What
Yeah.
do you need? And once you are open and honest about what your limitations are, or maybe what your needs are, man, there are guys that'll jump in both feet. And
Yeah.
and I'm like you, Brad. I've been hurt 30 years, and I the list is long with the number of
Oh,
people that have jumped in to help me get back out and just go.
right.
But we just got to be open and receptive to a I can't do everything like I did years ago. We're
Right.
getting older, regardless of our injury, but just getting back out. And I'm excited each and every week just to be able to share these kind of podcasts, just to show the amount of people that are still wanting to chase life.
Right.
Brad, how do you prepare for a hunt? I mean, it's not easy, contacting organizations. And how do you approach
Mhm.
an organization, and then how do you prepare for your hunt to travel and go somewhere?
Well, a lot of the most that I find, they you have to approach them and ask,
Yeah,
what can I do to go hunting with you guys? Whether it's pronghorn or pheasant or elk or whitetail. You just got to approach that organization, and sometimes it's like, yeah, you sure can, and then sometimes it's like, you sure can put in an app, and we do a drawing, and that's
yeah,
how Wyoming Disabled Hunters is. They do the drawing, and they have three species they hunt, and so you get a chance for each one. But once you shoot that, you can't shoot that one again. and they do the pronghorn and then the mule deer, and then they do the elk. So and you can't apply after you kill for 1 year. So I've been applying since I did. That was in 22 that I got the mule deer out with them, with Wyoming Disabled Hunters. So I can't. I waited a year and I applied, but it's getting popular now. So there's a lot more people they have sending applications for it.
Right.
As for getting ready, my wife can attest. It's like that's getting ready to just go down the road to the restaurants. We as people that use wheelchairs, it takes a little bit more. You got to get socks on that you're going to wear that day, and it's always. My wife says, "Why do you take 7 pair of underwear?" It's like you overpack everything. And my buddy when we went to Africa says, "You need one outfit plus the one you don't overpack." And I still.
But that's the crazy part, Brad, is, before I could take everything in a backpack. And after my injury, it's like I got to bring medical supplies and all this stuff. And so I'm packing three times the amount of stuff my wife has. And it's absolutely ridiculous. But, just being able to go, how do you prepare to travel with a firearm when you're going on some of these hunts?
Well, it's sometimes a lot of I like to ask if they have the equipment, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I think most of them do, but I wanted to I took my 308 out with me to Wyoming with the mule deer, and then the Utah. They said they had the guns. They had the guys that had been scouting, and they have an area that these guys pay for, and they donate that and to their time, and there's some long shots out in Utah. I'm telling you, there's very few that are 80-yard shots, or more like a couple hundred. There was a young kid there, shot 1,000 yards at an elk. It was a trophy of a lifetime for him, and he's young. And it's like, talk about that. It'll probably spoil him when he shoots a spike, but everybody's proud of him because he had disabilities. He was having a tough time getting around, and there's another kid there too. And I was the old man of the group, and I don't have, you just got. Go ahead.
That's one of the advantages of using the organization's rifle and system because, coming from Pennsylvania, all of my rifle shots, I'd like to say they're, 400 or 500-yard shots, but in reality, most of my rifle shots growing up hunting have always been 100 yards or less.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go out west and you may have to make a 200-yard or 250-yard shot, and their equipment's dialed in for that. And of course, we can prepare at our rifle range and get used to it. But that guide knows, if that elk is at 400 yards, they're going to dial that scope up, 6 clicks or 8 clicks, whatever it is for that particular scope and rifle. And I think there's a lot of advantage to using their equipment. One of the tips that I'd like to share with people is when I hunted in Texas, I shipped my mount for my rifle down to the outfitter by UPS. So I had a tracking number and made sure it got there the week ahead of time so that I wouldn't have to travel with my mount. I just took down my rifle and I took down an extra sip and puff trigger from Be Adaptive. But you can always ship some of this equipment to the outfitter so you don't have to travel with it with all the other excess medical equipment and things that we use.
Well, it just when we flew back from Utah, we went to rent a car. I went up to visit my aunt. It was in Idaho Falls, so we rented a car. But when we got back to the airport from that to go out to return the car and come back to get on our flight, it was a mile walk, and it's just like,
wow,
taking a rifle with me. My poor wife she was, that's a lot.
Right.
She's worried to death about me getting there. And so I have, as you guys probably, I don't know. I mean, I got torn rotator cuffs, both sides. And it happens a lot. And, they won't operate on that because as you guys probably well know, any operation makes you a little bit weaker. But I can imagine her having to carry my rifle case and luggage. And we really did try to pack light for flying out there, especially when you're flying. But, when we drove to some friends of mine from the local Turkey Federation chapter here, we drove out to Nebraska to hunt Rios, and we got stopped in Illinois for whoever was driving. I don't know, it wasn't me, for speeding. And of course, everybody had camouflage on and had hats,
Right.
that said, whatever, Browning or on the top. And so, what are they going to ask? Is there any firearms in the car? And it's
We got
Illinois.
a few.
Yeah, we got a few. And he was really nice. He said, well, he goes, I mean, you guys are just going out hunting. He said, show them to me. And so the guy got out and popped the trunk, and there it was in the back, 4
Sure.
cased up, and he was fine with it. And, we very, very, you treat them with respect, you're going to get respected right back.
Sure.
Right.
And Brad, you bring up a good point about, the role that our spouses play.
Oh,
When I travel and I'm carrying a rifle in a case, then I got my hunting backpack, and then I got everything else. She is loaded down with probably, no lie, 60, 70 pounds of gear
yeah.
that she's got to tote from the van into the hotel room and then back out the next morning, not to mention everything else she does for me. So
Yeah.
our spouses that, go on hunts with us, nobody knows what they go through. And you mentioned about getting stopped. I was in the Dallas Fort Worth airport, and I guess coming back from the hunt, I had a lot of powder residue
Oh,
on my gear and everything. So I got checked over within a third degree, because they ask, have you been handling any firearms or explosives recently? And I'm like, yeah, I just shot a deer, 10 hours ago. Yeah, I got gunpowder residue all over this backpack. So don't be surprised, and always treat people with respect whenever they're asking you, because we are traveling with guns and ammunition, and they have to be safe, and in their mind make sure those weapons are secure.
I went out earlier. It's been, I don't know, I can't remember what year it was, years ago, 10 probably, to Bozeman to fly fish. I was helping with the company I work for, and there was, I think, 5 of us that were working, and we got to shoot clay pigeons like one of the days. And, I'm not going to take 4 pair of shoes. I had 1 pair of shoes that, and I always tell people, at my funeral, just ask my wife about my shoes, because there's no miles on them. There's a lot of hours in them, but no miles. But I said, well, I can't take my shoes off, it's because it takes, I probably missed my flight. And it was, Bozeman Airport's really small at the time. And so he rubbed this,
Yep.
about that big around piece of cotton on my shoes and on my hands. And he asked me if he turned around after he ran that, and he said, can you stand up? And I said, yeah, I can. If I can lean on something, it'd be great. And so he was very pleasant. He just did a pat down and looked under my seat cushion and unzipped and looked at it, and then he was fine. But there was,
right.
Knew what was on there. What was on there, and so did I. So
exactly.
That's what makes it so difficult is, there's knuckleheads out here that do nefarious stuff from chair standpoints, and these guys and girls with TSA and everybody else have seen it as well. And so they're just trying to do a job. But you're right. When they swab my hands, it's going to come back with residue on it. We just left the woods. It doesn't mean I'm here to cause some terroristic activity. I'm out here having a good time. But at the same token, man, you guys bring up a lot of great points. Just be courteous. Know your game.
Ask for help too. Always ask for help.
Right.
When I was on the way back through TSA on the flight back, he patted me down, had me lean up, all that. He wiped my shoes, everything.
Yeah.
And I had a backpack on the back of my wheelchair, and I thought he looked at it. And I got through, and he said, okay, you're good to go. And then I heard somebody saying, hey, hey, hey. And it was him. I said, what's the matter? He said, I didn't look in your backpack at all. He says, please come back. So they make mistakes, and
sure.
I don't want him to make that mistake with, the wrong person, obviously.
Right.
But he was very nice and respectful, and, we kind of had a laugh about it a little bit. But like you say, they're human, like we are. They're just doing their job.
Right. That was the next tip I was going to mention, Brad, is, we all have our hunting backpack. And how many times, most of the time I'm crossbow hunting, so I don't have any ammunition with me.
Right.
But when you go on a rifle hunt, you have to be absolutely 100% certain that you have all of your rounds, all of your cartridges secured, and put where they need to go. And if you're the kind of guy that, does things willy nilly and you're coming out of the ground blind and you just throw your shells in your backpack,
or your pocket or something. Yeah.
exactly. If you have that magazine in your backpack and it's not unloaded and those rounds aren't secure, you can
Yeah.
have a problem real quick and in a hurry. So
Oh
always
yeah.
always double check your ammunition on these flights and make sure you're doing the right thing.
Right. I got just a quick story. I had to go to the federal courthouse. It's been, I don't know, probably 20 years ago. And I always conceal carry a pistol. And
Yeah.
I knew I was going to the courthouse, and I had this briefcase. It was leather. It was black leather on the inside and out. Took the magazine. I took everything under the seat and locked the car up. And there was one magazine full. It was a black magazine in the very bottom of that I didn't see.
Yep.
And but I didn't know that many marshals worked at the federal courthouse.
Oh
They
yeah.
all came out what I was doing.
Oh
And
yeah.
I just, being ignorant, I asked if I could have it back when I came back out, and they go, "Yeah, we'll put it here in a bag." But we understand what happened. I explained to them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they were nice. They were good people to me. Very good.
Yeah. It's easy to get in those situations if we don't watch it.
It
I
is.
did the same thing, Brad. I even as a quad, I conceal carry, and I did the same thing. Jumped out of my truck, went to go rolling in, and and I was in law enforcement, and so most of the guys, when I go through, they don't even want me anymore because my chair is going to set it off, and they all knew me, and so they were waving me on through, like, hey, we know him, come on. And I got about a quarter of the way into the courthouse, and I told my wife, I said, I'll be back. And she's like, where are you going? I said, I got to run back out to the truck.
Yeah.
I played it off like I needed a bathroom break. And I
Yeah.
got outside and I pulled that thing out, set it up under my seat, and went back in. And she said, yeah, it wasn't a bathroom, was it? I said, no, but it was going to get a little hot in here if I didn't. So I needed to get on back out the door pretty quick.
Exactly.
I got
Exactly.
several friends that are, in the police force in the county, and I go to the courthouse to vote. And,
Yeah.
I just, they do kind of like take it easy on me because they've known me forever. And they, there's never been any trouble. I've obviously never been to court. And
Right.
except
Right.
I was on a jury one time. But yeah, I mean,
It
because I
is
carry a pocket knife, and it's like, I take my pocket knife out before I got there. And
that.
they know, but like I say, they've been good. But I'll tell you, if you get caught on the inside of the courthouse by someone that you don't know, and you
Oh,
accidentally
yeah.
through that, I mean, it could cause you some
It
headache.
can get pretty rough pretty quick.
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely. And the pocket knife is always one that gets me because I always have a Swiss Army knife in my backpack. And, you have to, pay attention to where you're going and what you're doing. And that's
Right.
part of being, a responsible hunter or a responsible
It is.
citizen and knowing what you're carrying. But Brad, we're going to have to wrap it up here pretty soon. But uh, I really appreciate you coming on. And I'm going to kind of give you and Mike the last word about getting people in the outdoors. Brad, what would you say to somebody that's trying for the first time? And then Mike, I'll have you close it out for us today.
With me, I mean, you just got to ask. I mean, Google's your friend, and DuckDuckGo, whatever you search with, find it. And there's a lot of organizations that want to help and do stuff, and they want to give, and sometimes it costs them money to go, and sometimes it doesn't cost
Yeah.
anything. You're always going to have an expense of something, even if it's just gas to get there. My advice is just, if you want to go out pheasant hunting, or if you want to go on the dove hunt, or start ask your neighbor as well. And if you know a guy that is a gun guy or a police officer, a lot of them do hunt, especially around here anyway. Ask them, and they would. I've been with on a hunt when it's me and two or three officers. Just out, and they get
Yeah.
out in the middle of a duck field and shooting ducks. Like I say, it's just like, just ask somebody that sees it all and around, and get on the computer and search those groups out if you want to go hunting. They're out there. Disabled
Yeah.
outdoorsmen out down in Texas. They have chapters around, and they know of a lot of things to do if you just ask them. And some of it could be in your state, right next door, and you don't even know about it. So just put out an email to them. That's my advice. That's what I've done, and been successful a lot of it, and had a good time doing it. So
That's the biggest thing right there. And I just got to thank both of you guys for allowing me to be a part of this thing and being able to share the information. That's what these podcasts are about. It's
yeah,
about showing that opportunities are out there, that, life goes on. That, again, we're not asking for a handout. We're just looking for a way to get back out. Find that information, but also be willing to share it. So,
yeah,
Brad, thank you for coming on today, man, and sharing your adventures. Sounds like you got a boatload of great memories and great opportunities, and we're excited to have you back on and be able to talk some more about
well,
just the next chapters. And
yeah,
again, Greg, man, thank you for all you do. It's always about sharing the information and being able to disseminate how to get people out, finding these organizations that are on the go, and just being able to share the adventures.
right.
As a wheeled hunter, dude, I look forward to it every single year, just being
No, me
able
too.
to
Me
find new
too.
ways and get on these adventures. So thank you guys.
Hey, thank you both. I really appreciate it, the opportunity. So I'm looking forward to the next time with you guys. So,
Absolutely.
all right.
Folks, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today. We really appreciate you tuning in each week and learning the stories about Brad and other people. It's all about the individuals getting out, the organizations that are doing great work. And we look forward to next week. And thanks so much again for listening.